Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first podcast, Hello, Mainstreet. The reason for having this podcast is to help people in business. Usually, $1 million and under is considered Main Street. And a lot of times, we need information that is going to help to address pressing issues in our businesses. And who is it that we're going to turn to in order to help us? So, today we're going to talk about real estate. And the reason why I brought this topic up as the first to discuss is, um, it's a different time right now. Rates have gone up, and so let's see what's happening and how can we help ourselves as far as entrepreneurs and business owners to be successful as we navigate those waters. So I would like to welcome my first guest ever. So Jonathan Barragan. Welcome, Jonathan. He is with Q Home Loans. And we have Amanda Frank, and she is with Berkshire Hathaway. So welcome to the both of you to being on the first podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor.
Thank
Obviously,
you.
there are
Yeah, so let's have some fun. So let's just talk, have some conversations here. And the reason why I had mentioned this to Jonathan, and I thought this would be a great way to kind of break the ice, is I had met a business owner. He has owned his home for over 10 years. He gets his creative budgeting happening in his business to where it almost shows that he doesn't make any money. And the reason why a lot of business owners do that is they don't want to pay a lot of taxes, right? So that's fine. That's all good. That's pretty typical. But when he went to go try and get a refinance for his home, the bank that he's been paying all of these years would not refinance him. And I remember, Jonathan, you had mentioned about 1099 people or business owners that you have some different products out there that can help them. So would you share some of that information with us?
absolutely. Thanks, Monica. So essentially, what lenders look for is when you're self-employed is stability of your income, right? We want to make sure that the same amount of money is going to be coming in and be stable. Obviously, with self-employed month after month, it might not look that way, but the overall body of work, we want to see that it is stable and it's reliable, and we don't want it to be one year you're just making a ton of money and then the next year is going down because that makes everybody feel nervous. So when you're showing stability, it shows that you're going to be able to make those payments in the future. So even though like you mentioned the person that you were working with, even though he's been with that particular lender, they still want to see that stability year after year, and that's what makes them want to do that. Because when you're refinancing, essentially you're doing a brand new loan, and that's what we want to make sure that we give them again that peace of mind that they're going to be getting their payment on time, right? So with that being said, again, the underwriters will look at those kind of things, making sure that year after year, you're going to be making those payments on a monthly basis. We typically, as business owners, we write off a lot of pieces, write off, to lower down your how much you're going to be paying on your property tax, on your taxes. But again, it does hurt you ultimately. So, what can you do? I mean, I guess it depends on if you're going to be buying or you're going to be refinancing, right? If you're going to be buying, a couple of things to kind of keep in mind is, maybe improving your credit score, in preparation of your purchase. Another things that could offset some of those things as far as, reporting less money is maybe doing a larger down payment, maybe 20% more down payment instead of maybe just the typical 5%, 3.5%, depending on your loan program. Maybe paying down some of your, your big purchases that you've done in the past, and maybe, paying off some of those debts. In addition to that, avoiding bigger payments, taking on other things. So I think it's just a couple of different, I want to say, tips that you could help yourself in preparation of buying. And you just made you just made a good point, though. We do also offer other paths. So this is more the traditional way of getting a loan, right? What I just mentioned. But there are other aspects of people that cannot, meet those or fit into these boxes because perhaps they claimed a little bit too much, but they do have that 20%, and they do have decent credit. So there are paths that maybe perhaps we could use instead of that. We could use your bank statements for the last 12 months and show that you're able to make you're able to make that money because that's what you're generating. And so there are what's called bank statement loans that we could actually do. So that's another path. Although this is a different path, just to full disclosure, usually because it's they're a little bit higher price. As far as what I mean by that is your down payment requirement might be a little bit more, generally in the 20% range. But again, it gives you that flexibility again, that we're not going to rely on just your tax return information. We're going to rely on what are you bringing in, things of that nature. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit easier to obtain. I guess what I want to say is less things that they're looking at, but at the same time, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. And I guess a trade-off, right? It's a
Yeah.
trade-off because you don't have those other tangibles.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, that is a lot of information, and I would like to dissect it a little bit more. And I'm wondering, did I put the cart before the horse? Because usually, when people are thinking of buying, they tend to look at the house first? And Amanda, please chime in. Should they be looking at the house first, or should they be looking at doing the mortgage first? What comes first when you're even considering those things?
So really, a lot of people, they will call me first, but I really want them to call Jonathan first, so we know exactly where we are, what we can spend, what we're looking for. So we aren't looking at something that's too expensive and then we get their hopes up. But no matter if they call me first, I can always send them to Jonathan, and we can get that letter really quick, and then we can still go. It honestly, it happens both ways.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so, how is the market looking right now? I know that, before it was like rates were what, 2%, 3%, and things were flying off the shelf. I mean, and people were putting above price. And now it's kind of, I don't know, has it cooled off much? What are we looking at right now as far as the market? What are you guys experiencing?
Jonathan, I'll let you talk about the rate. I'll let you do that.
That's perfectly fine. So yes, we did, unfortunately see a cooling down. Like you said, I mean, houses were just flying. It was just, how can you keep up with everything going on? It seemed like everybody was like, you want a house, kind of like Oprah, right? You want a house, you want a house, you want a house, you want a house. And that's kind of how it was going. And then after a while, rates started going up, and unfortunately did cool things down in the market. So it did a different kind of environment for everybody. It depends, because myself, I've been in the business for quite a little bit of time now.
Yeah.
I've seen this before, but there was newer agents that came on board when that hot streak was coming on, new loan officers. So they didn't really know what to see or expect during that time. And it did slow down quite a bit. And and what it did a couple of different things. Obviously, the rates went up, so people were less likely to qualify for that max that they wanted. And on the same token, they were not able to qualify anymore for that amount anymore because the rates are so much higher. Now that you got to get more creative on trying to get those buyers into homes that they really were seeking. And where before it was perfectly fine, but now you got to look at more creative ways to try to make it work. So from that standpoint, I think it kind of set people off in a different path as far as first-time home buyers. Maybe the current buyer, people that were not moving as much anymore because the rates were higher. So you kind of saw that slowing down as well too. But I see it right now. Right now, things are kind of changing a little bit. And I think in our area in the Yakima Valley, we'll see this. It's kind of like a cycle, because once we still start seeing the warmer months, we start seeing a little bit more movement, and that's kind of how we work in our area, in our market. So that's kind of how I'm seeing it. So we're starting to see more activity and more, people applying and wanting to get into homes once again.
Okay. That's great. And then Amanda, what does the supply look like right now? I mean, are we still, at a point to where there's not enough supply as far as homes on the market, or are we going to see an uptick like Jonathan was talking about as the the weather gets better, school starts to let out, people start to travel, right? So what are you seeing?
Yeah, so I mean, it is very seasonal, but right now we do have a very low supply. I think it's actually one of the lowest we've had in years. So there in turn, that does keep things moving in the market. We are still seeing multiple offers, just not 15 or 20. We'll see two or three. And it's not as bad as, when you're talking to a buyer and saying, okay, instead of just kind of assuming you're 10, 20,000, maybe even 30,000 over asking, you know, um, we are seeing homes sit a little bit longer on the market. So buyers are able to get them, at asking, sometimes even under, depending on the situation. But, summer's coming and that gets everybody, we need a bigger house. We need to move before, school starts again. We need to get all this stuff done. So there is always that. The beginning of the school year, sorry, is always a big one for us. A lot of buyers, they want to be in their new house before school starts so they can
Yeah,
have their kids registered in school. But,
sure.
the warmth, it gets everybody out. Everybody's smiling. And that's what we're really waiting for. We've had a really cold spring. So it's like hibernation's over and we're all ready to buy a house. Yeah.
Yeah, no, understandable. So, what is some advice that you would give somebody who they're considering maybe relocating either within our area or maybe they're relocating outside of our, city limits or out of state? What's some advice as far as from the real estate standpoint that they should be considering or doing?
So one of the first things, always call Jonathan first. Let's get our pre-approval. Let's get your information sent into him so we know what we are looking for. We don't want to be disappointed if you find the house of your dreams and we can't afford it. But really, I am here for you. I have a lot of buyers that I help with video, and we can do it remote. And really just don't be discouraged. A lot of people get in their head, what their perfect home looks like. And then we start looking, and sometimes that changes. So we really do need to get out and see a couple different homes so you can understand what you really have decided you want. So you don't settle.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. And now that the market is a little bit slower, I know before it was going so fast that people didn't even have time to do home inspections or anything like that, right? So now that the market's starting to kind of come back down a little bit, like the pendulum is swinging, so that gives them that time to be able to get home inspection. What do you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. We always recommend a home inspection. You always want to know what you're getting yourself into. But now, actually, what we are seeing a lot more of is seller credits. So instead of the seller lowering the price 10,000, if they give you $10,000 towards your closing costs, or to even buy down your rate, it makes your money go so much further. And that is something that we are starting to see quite a bit of in almost every single transaction.
Okay, that sounds good. And so tell me, some of your experience or some ways that I'll start with Jonathan first, some ways that you've helped clients and what are give them four steps that they need to do in order to know that they can come to you and they've never looked at buying a home before.
Great question. So I think the number one thing is, I think you just mentioned it. Just don't be scared. What I guess I would go back to the phrase, "What's the worst thing that they could say? No." No, but we don't say no just like that, right? We're gonna go ahead and do our our meeting the client. We're gonna want to know more about their needs, and then we're gonna encourage them to apply. And the reason why is because at that point we have the full picture. It's kind of hard when somebody says, "Hey, what can I qualify for?" Or what about this? In recent, months and years, I mean, or actually, I should say, every so often things change in how we approve things. Guidelines change. All these different factors come into play, and it's very, very hard to answer that to clients and borrowers. So the first thing is I encourage them, hey, let's have a conversation first. If we feel like what you're ready, I'll encourage you. I'll send you my mobile app. We do that, and then we have them apply. But the important thing is we could look at can you afford it? Do you have some unexpected things on your credit report that we need to address right now before we get further on? Because there's no point in falling in love with the property and we need to fix all these things, because it's going to really delay the process. Maybe even cost you money. So we don't want to do all those things. So very first thing, have the conversation, encourage to apply, so we can take a look at it. And then, let's talk about your financial situation a little bit further. How are we going to make this work? So just a lot of these little things, just simple conversation, and just know that we're here for you. I know that a lot of the time that, we might hold some information back. I really plead everybody just to be straightforward. Just let us know how your situation is. Don't be embarrassed. That's probably the biggest thing. A lot of people sometimes are embarrassed and may not say things, and it all comes out to light. And we rather address it now than further down when we're in the transaction. So I guess conversation. Let's do an application. Let's be truthful as much as you can. And from there, then we get you set up with, again, with Amanda, and then she could help you find those, your dream home or the home that fits your needs now. Because I think that's something that a lot of people want to hit that home run, and they want to get their forever home right off the bat. And sometimes you have to take those steps. And
Sure.
maybe your living situation just requires you to be having that first home so you could experience it. And later, once you build up the equity, use that towards your next home. And I think Amanda would agree with that too.
Yeah. So Amanda, so thank you, Jonathan. And so Amanda, tell us how does that look for your end as far as, what a realtor does for you, how they're on your side. Because oftentimes, somebody will drive by a house and go, hey, I see this for sale sign, so I'm going to call them, and so they're working with the person that listed that. I mean, I know that there's different nuances, but can you share with us what that looks like and why we would want to use somebody apart from the person who's listing the home?
Yes. So this is such a good question. For a buyer, your buyer's agent is free. You do not have to pay their fee. The commission is actually paid from the seller. So for the buyer's agent bringing a buyer forward, the seller pays that commission. Things are changing a little bit right now, but for the most part, it's still the same. But, if you don't have to pay that out of pocket, that's a free service on your side, money-wise. You have an agent in your court that's fighting for you and that has access to great forms, that understands the process, and they know when the deadlines are, so they can keep you in compliance with your loan, with your offer. They are the ones that are doing all the groundwork, running from the other agent, communicating with the lender, the appraiser, the inspector. So we're really just here to make sure that this goes as smoothly as possible. And we really do have the experience, so just kind of sit back and let us do the hard work. But, I would love to have somebody in my court fighting for me that understands the process. That's the biggest part. That most buyers don't understand that.
Yeah. And I know that recently Amanda had come to my home, and even though I wasn't ready to sell, I definitely had done some upgrades in my home. And so I was like, I'd like to know what my house is worth right now, right? Especially because the market just made a big shift. So did I lose a ton of money because I didn't sell my home right away? Or do I have to wait for the next go round? And so what I really liked is the advice that Amanda came in, which is, coming in, home, when people look at homes, they look at the kitchen and the bathroom first, right? And Amanda, can you tell them a little bit more about, like, when you find a room like the basement, right, and an egress window, what that would look like as far as increasing value? Because there are a lot of basements here in Yakima.
Yeah. So no, thank you so much for having me again. But so your home is your biggest investment, and a lot of people will talk to their financial advisors yearly, and they get an update on what their stocks they're doing, but it's not that way with your home. So call me, I can come over, we can get you a really good estimate on what your home is worth, and financially where you sit. I do have clients that ask me for that. They need it for their retirement. They need it, they just need to know where they sit financially. So it is a good idea. And then also, like Monica, if you're going to do a big upgrade, you need to know, if I put in a $70,000 pool, am I going to get that 70,000 or more back? Is this financially right for me? Or, if I put $10,000 into this bedroom in the basement, it's going to bring, possibly $50,000 in equity into your home. So you have that instant equity. So, yeah, talk to the expert and get your quotes and find out, where is my money going to go further in this situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you agree with that, Jonathan? What do you see on your end? Is that something parallel?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why I get a lot of questions like, well, what can I do with my equity, right? With your
Mm.
home. Sometimes people want to do refinances. I know we opened up talking about refinances, but those are the conversations we want to have because number one, what are you going to do? Are you going to be refinancing your home to just get a better rate, or I know rates are kind of what they are right now, but some might actually be better actually if they had it long enough. But are you going to take out some cash out? And what are you going to do with that cash out? Are you like Amanda mentioned? Are you going to be implementing a pool? Are you going to be condense paying off some debt? What are we going to do with that? So it doesn't make sense though. Those kind of things. So those are kind of the similar conversations we have because at the end of the day, how long are you going to live in your home? Is another question because if you're going to be refinancing, typically you want a lower payment. So now we're going to do another 30 years. But again, are we suited to do that? Is this the best decision to make? And if so, what's the outcome at the end of the day? We want to make sure that you're in a better position and not spending more money than you should. And if you're going to spend it, use it wisely, right?
Right.
And put some really good value to what your home is and what to expect later on.
So that brings up a good question, Jonathan. I, talk to a lot of business owners and people who are like, I'm thinking of starting a business, but capital is always a big factor for them. Can they utilize their home equity to start a business, or is that not a very good way to use investment money? I mean, tell
I
me
think
more.
it is. Yeah, I think it is. As long as you're 100% committed, and you have a really good plan in place, right? And one of the key things actually that I had do's and don'ts kind of thing is do have a really good CPA in place. Make sure you know where your money is going.
Hmm.
Make sure that you're accounting for everything. So being good about your paperwork, knowing where you're spending it all, because it all is going to come back and tie back into your tax returns. And when we're trying to apply for these products, those are kind of things that we're going to look at, right? We're going to be
Right.
looking and asking people, hey, can I have your last 2 years tax returns? I need your year-to-date profit and loss statement, evidence of business existing, things like that. And if everything is in order, your chances of getting and tapping into that equity is going to be better and greater for you. So, I mean, I guess in short, yes, I think it's a great thing to do, but we just want to make sure that you're doing it correctly and doing these things in great steps to make sure that you do get approved for it so you can tap into it.
Right. Right. And that kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of people. They may start their business out of their home. And of course, we don't have a tax person on, but that is a question for them, is things that you can write off when you have a home office space
Yeah.
for that. So
And yeah,
again, going back to that investment part, right?
keeping good records is great. And then, of course, keeping your bank accounts separate, your personal and business separate. That's one of the things that will encourage everybody to do if you're a business owner. Keep them separate because it becomes really, really messy if they're intertwined. So, I mean, again, to make things easier for yourself and for everybody, keep them separate.
Yeah, well, sounds good. Thank you. And so just last questions for you guys is, what advice, what's the last piece of advice you would give somebody, especially entrepreneurs, right? Because that's really who we're focusing on. What is the last piece of advice you would want to give them? Amanda, you can go first. How's that?
Okay. So, no, I actually love this question. I've actually had a couple of people reach out to me lately, and they ask me about what I do, and they don't sometimes know the extent to some of the things that we do every day. So, if you have questions, reach out to somebody that like for me, example, if you're thinking about becoming an agent, just start asking questions. What's the timeline look like? Something about the pay, just any sort of question you can have, and then maybe just make sure to schedule enough time, because there is going to be so much more that you don't anticipate that you're going to be finding out, and that can sway your decision one way or the other too. So find somebody in that field and just start picking their brain.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. And what about you, Jonathan?
Very similar. Engage with the, and if you're going to get a loan, engage with the mortgage professional. Sometimes we tend to, talk to our friends and family members because we trust them, we love them, right? And some of them have already done this before, but they don't know the ins and outs. And like I mentioned, things change like very, very quickly. Within a couple months. We get sometimes some people say, oh, well, they didn't ask for this last time. Well, again, things change. So definitely, I would encourage to talk to a professional, again, mortgage, or if we're going to be looking at properties, an agent that knows their business on the daily. They keep up with everything that's changing in the market. So that would be number one. And number two, Amanda just said it right now. Just give some time. Something like this doesn't take from today to tomorrow, and especially if you're a brand new into the business, like you're barely, starting off your business, you're going to need at least 2 years for the most part in doing this. So we need a little bit of timeline, and get your ducks in a row and prepare yourself. What else do we need to do? But first, I would encourage to speak to somebody and get you on that path first.
Yeah, absolutely. I really do appreciate that. And so I think we also have, I'd like to know, how should we get in touch with you guys if they have further questions that they don't want to ask here online, but they may think about something down the line, or like, who was that person again? I want to talk to them. So Jonathan, how can they reach you?
So my email is jonathan@Q Home Loans. They could also reach me, text me at 509-901-0749. I do also have a mobile app that is on my website, and if it's not, I will make sure that it's on there. But usually social media as well is another way. You could shoot me a DM as well through Facebook or Instagram. So any of those platforms, it's great.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Jonathan. How about you, Amanda? What are the best ways to reach you?
So give me a call, text me on my cell. I have social media and email, but don't be afraid. Just call or text me directly. I'll answer.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And I want to thank everybody for attending. Help us to share this information, and share it and post it. And if you want to find out more about Network in Action and how we help entrepreneurs to scale your business, we're here for you. So you can reach me at 509-571-6690. And thank you so much for your time, and look forward to seeing you soon.